Hello, Princess Cruises from Sarasota, Florida. My name is Hutch. I'm one of your destination lecturers. I hope this does find you safe, healthy, and in this time as comfortable as possible. I want to start off by apologizing about the quality of this video, but I do reside alone, and if I were to have anybody come in to record this on a video camera, I would have to be wearing a mask. Therefore, I'm utilizing my old Mac for this. Now, I was thinking this morning, I was having my coffee in my Princess mug, about which port do I want to talk about? Which port do I miss the most? And it really came to me, there isn't a port I'm missing at this time. What I'm missing is the camaraderie of the ship's company. When you're on the ships, you have the smiles, the laughter, the friendships. You have almost a family around you at all times. And I really do miss that aspect. So I thought I'd take a little bit of a twist on this. Talk about something that we almost all enjoy. Majority of the people, whether it be home, in the office, or on a ship. And that is coffee. So if I can, I'm going to give you a little rundown on the history of coffee. Hope you enjoy. The legend of the origins of coffee begins with Chaldee, who in the period around 750 AD was a goat herder in the Abyssinian highlands, today Ethiopia. It was in the province of Kaffa where 5,000 types of Arabica coffee trees still grow today, as they have for centuries. Whether this legend bears some truth we may never know, but as most legends there's normally a small grain of truth to it. It is said that Chaldee, whilst tending to his goats, discovered coffee after noticing that his goats, upon eating the red berries from bushes with shiny leaves, became so spirited they began prancing and dancing and did not want to sleep that night. Chaldee was so worried that his goats may have consumed the poison that he stayed awake all night with his goats, and when morning broke, he noticed that his flock had not suffered any negative effects from consuming the berries. Chaldee dutifully reported his findings to the abbot of the local monastery, who, after experimenting with the berries, made a drink from them and discovered that it kept him alert for long hours of evening prayer. Soon the abbot shared his discovery with the other monks at the monastery, and ever so slowly, the knowledge of the energizing effects of the berries began to spread. As word of this new elixir moved east, coffee then reached the Arabian Peninsula, beginning a journey which would spread its reputation across the globe. By the 13th century, coffee had become extremely popular within the Muslim community due to its stimulant powers, which proved useful during long prayer sessions. Soon, the Arabs began parching and boiling the coffee berries, thus rendering them infertile. Due to this process, they were able to corner the market on the coffee crop. Now, this new beverage was not only drunk in Arabian homes, but also in many public coffee houses, called kafekhana, which began to appear in cities all across the Near East. The popularity of these coffee houses was unequaled, and people frequented them for all kinds of social activity. But not only did they drink coffee and engage in conversation, they also listened to music, watched performers, played chess, and kept current on the news of the day. These coffee houses quickly became such an important center for the exchange of information that they were often referred to as schools of the wise. Each year, with thousands of pilgrims from all over the world visiting the holy city of Mecca, word of the wine of the Araby, as the drink was often called, was beginning to spread far beyond Arabia. In an effort to maintain complete monopoly in their early coffee trade, the Arabians continued to closely guard their coffee production and hold a monopoly on its trade. By the 15th century, coffee was being grown in the Minani district of Arabia. Today, it's been replanted in this area and that can fetch as much as $200 per pound. And by the 16th century, it was known to be consumed in Persia, Egypt, Syria, and Turkey. It is thought, though, not a single living coffee plant existed outside of Arabia or Africa until the 1600s, when an Indian pilgrim, Baba Budan, left Mecca with fertile beans smuggled to a strap across his abdomen. Now, as the demand of coffee continued to spread, there was tense competition to cultivate coffee outside of Arabia. Although the Arabs tried hard to maintain their monopoly on coffee by only exporting the processed beans from the port of Mocha on the Red Sea, It was the Dutch who in the late 15th century finally succeeded in smuggling out some live seedlings. The Dutch first attempted to plant these smuggled seeds in India, although this venture was not successful. Then in 1616, the Dutch founded the first European-owned coffee estate in Ceylon, today Sri Lanka, and in 1696 they expanded into Batavia on the island of Java, and is what now is Indonesia. These plants cultivated in Java thrived, and soon the Dutch had a productive and growing trade in coffee. The Dutch soon expanded the cultivation of coffee trees to the islands of Sumatra and Celebes, and became the dominant force in the coffee trade. The fortunes of the Dutch coffee trade all changed in 1714, when the mayor of Amsterdam presented the gift of a young coffee plant to King Louis XIV of France, who was known as a prolific coffee drinker who combined it with cloves, cardamom seeds, and sugar. The king then ordered the gift of this coffee plant to be immediately planted in the Royal Botanical Garden in Paris. In 1723, a young naval officer, Gabriel de Chaillu, obtained a seedling from the king's plant, and despite a horrific voyage complete with horrendous weather, a saboteur who tried to destroy the coffee seedling, and a pirate attack, Chaillu managed to transfer it safely to Martinique. Once planted in Martinique, the seedling thrived, and within the next 50 years there were 18 million coffee trees on the island of Martinique. It's also from the island of Martinique coffee plants spread throughout the Caribbean, South and Central America. Coffee is said to come to Brazil in the hands of Francisco de Mela Paleta, who was sent by the emperor to French Guiana for the purpose of obtaining coffee seedlings. But the French were not willing to share, and Paleta was at first unsuccessful in his venture. It is said, though, he was so handsomely engaging that he captivated the attention of the French governor's wife. As Paleta planned to return to Brazil empty-handed, the governor's wife presented him with a going-away gift, a large bouquet of flowers, and buried inside were enough coffee seeds to begin what is today's billion-dollar industry. By the 17th century, coffee had established itself as a commodity crop throughout the world. Missionaries, travelers, traders, and colonists continued to carry coffee seeds to new lands, and coffee trees were planted worldwide. Plantations were established in magnificent tropical forests and on rugged mountain highlands. Some flourished while others were short-lived. And even new nations were established on coffee economies with fortunes made and lost. Now, opponents of this new beverage were overly cautious, calling it the bitter invention of Satan. When coffee arrived into Venice in 1615, the local clergy condemned it. The controversy surrounding this new beverage soon became so great that Pope Clement VIII was asked to intervene. Before making a decision, however, he decided to taste the beverage for himself. He found the drink so satisfying he declared, "The devil's drink is delicious. We should cheat the devil by baptizing it." Despite the controversy within major cities of England, Austria, France, Germany, and Holland, coffee houses were quickly becoming centers of social activity and communication. In England, penny universities sprang up. They were so called because for the price of a penny one could purchase a cup of coffee and also engage in stimulating conversation. By the 17th century, there were over 300 coffee houses in London, many which attracted patrons with common interests such as merchants, shippers, brokers, and artists. Although not all were happy with this new beverage, for many of the women of London tried in vain to ban this new liquor. Many businesses grew out of the specialized coffee houses. Lloyd's of London, for example, came into existence at Edward Lloyd's Coffee House. By the end of the 18th century, coffee had become one of the world's most profitable export crops and a worldwide commodity, and entrepreneurs began looking for new ways to profit from this popular beverage. In 1864, the brothers John and Charles Arbuckle from Pittsburgh, they purchased Jabez Burns' new invented self-emptying coffee bean roaster. The same year, the Arbuckle brothers began selling pre-roasted coffee in paper bags by the pound. They named their coffee Arrosia and found great success selling it to the cowboys in the American West. Now, it wasn't long before James Folger followed suit and began selling coffee to the gold miners of California. This blazed the trail for several other big-name coffee producers, including Maxwell House and Hills Brothers. By the 1960s, the demand for higher quality coffee started to grow, and in Seattle in 1971, one company saw the chance to make a profit on this new demand, thus the opening of the first Starbucks. Today, one can find numerous small, independently owned cafes boasting sustainable, locally roasted, fair trade beans, with coffee evolving into a beverage that is valued for its complexity of flavors and aromas, much like wine. Today, coffee is grown in a multitude of countries around the world, whether it's Asia, Africa, Central or South America, the islands of the Caribbean, or Pacific. All can trace their heritage to the trees in the ancient coffee forest on the Ethiopian plateau. In the mid 1600s, the Dutch exported coffee to their new settlement of New Amsterdam, a location later called New York by the British. By the period of the original 13 colonies, a few coffee houses were operating successfully, although tea continued to be the favorite drink. All this changed on December 16, 1773, when the colonists revolted against the heavy tax on tea imposed by King George. The revolt, now known as the Boston Tea Party, would forever change the American drinking preference to coffee. The Civil War, along with other conflicts that followed, also helped increase coffee consumption, as soldiers relied on the caffeine for a boost of energy. Teddy Roosevelt himself is counted among America's greatest coffee drinkers due to his rumored consumption of a gallon of coffee daily. Now, Roosevelt is also said to have coined Maxwell House's famous "good to the last drop" slogan. It was after being served the coffee at Andrew Jackson's historical home in the Hermitage in Tennessee. I hope you enjoyed a little of information about one of America's and the world's favorite drinks. I do hope you found that somewhat interesting, and I hope everybody stays healthy, be safe, be strong, and very seriously, I hope to see you all soon. Thank you, and have a great day.